So, let's start with a wild thought. What if the one thing everyone's so excited about, AI, is actually the thing that triggers the next big global economic crisis? It sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, today we're digging into a really fascinating thought exercise from Citrini Research and Aleb Shah. They wrote this memo, From the Future. We're talking June 2028, and they're looking back at a crisis that basically turned the world upside down. Now, this is a scenario, okay? Not a prediction. It's really designed to make us think about some of the risks that, frankly, we just don't talk about enough.
And this right here, this is the core of it, the central question they ask. It just completely flips that whole optimistic AI narrative on its head. The entire memo is really an exploration of this paradox, this idea that the incredible success of AI could, in the short term, actually be terrible for the economy. How could that even be possible?
All right, so let's play along. Let's imagine we just hopped in a time machine. The date is June 30th, 2028. We've got this memo in our hands. It's a post-mortem, a look back trying to figure out how everything went so wrong, so incredibly fast.
And the numbers from this future are pretty grim. We're looking at unemployment over 10%. The stock market, it's been crushed, down almost 40% from its peak just 2 years before. I mean, this isn't just a correction or a dip, it's a full-blown crisis. The memo even says traders have grown numb to the bad news. Just imagine that.
So that's the big question, right? 2 years, 24 months. How do you go from all-time highs and just wild optimism to a deep, dark crisis? To figure that out, we have to rewind the clock a bit and look at what really powered this whole mess. Okay, so the authors have a name for it. They call it the Human Intelligence Displacement Spiral. It sounds complicated, but it's really this powerful, self-feeding cycle. And it all kicks off not just with any AI, but with a very specific type of AI.
And this is the key distinction. We're not talking about AI as just a helpful tool, like a smarter spell check or something. This is about what they call agentic AI. These are systems that are autonomous. They don't just help you think. They basically are a substitute for human thinking.
And here's how that spiral works. It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. Step 1, AI just keeps getting better. Step 2, companies, always looking to be more efficient, start replacing expensive white-collar workers with these AI agents. Now, step 3, all those people who lost their jobs, they stop spending money. And that leads to step 4. All the other companies feel the squeeze on their profits, which forces them to invest in more AI to cut their costs. And you can see how this thing just feeds on itself, getting faster and faster.
So where does this all start? According to the memo, the very first domino to tip over was the software industry. The idea is that by 2026, these AI agents get so good at writing code that the whole software as a service or SaaS business model starts to fall apart. I mean, think about it. Why would you pay a massive subscription fee when your own team, with a couple of AI agents, can just build a good enough version of that software for way cheaper?
And here's the really wild, paradoxical part. In other tech disruptions, the big old companies usually fight the new thing, right? Not this time. The SaaS companies, the ones most at risk, couldn't afford to ignore it, so they did the only thing they could do. They started firing their own people and poured all that money into the very AI that was eating their lunch just to have a fighting chance. And when everyone did that at once, well, the result was a catastrophe.
So this fire starts in the software industry, but it doesn't stay there. It spreads like wildfire. It jumps to any business that's basically built on being a middleman, what the memo calls the intermediation economy.
And just look at this list. It's a huge part of our economy. Travel sites, insurance agents, financial advisors, real estate, even stuff like food delivery. Basically, any business that makes money because things are complicated, or because we're too lazy to switch, or because they can monetize a few extra clicks, suddenly all of them were completely exposed. Because an AI agent can do all of that stuff way faster and way cheaper.
This really breaks down the why. Think about how we shop. We rely on habit. Maybe we're loyal to a brand. We get tired of clicking around and just settle for a good enough price. But an AI agent, it's a completely different beast. It's pure logic. It never gets tired. It is constantly hunting for the absolute best deal, 24/7. It doesn't care about your cool logo or your clever Super Bowl ad. None of that matters.
And this is such a brutal but brilliant takeaway from the memo. It basically says that a lot of what we called a business relationship, if your insurance guy or your realtor, was really just friction with a smile. It was a business model built on inconvenience. And the second AI removed that friction, poof, the entire business model just evaporated.
Okay, so we've got massive job losses in the real economy. We've got entire industries getting wiped out. That's bad, but how does it turn into a full-blown systemic financial crisis? Well, the answer is that our entire financial system had unknowingly made one single, gigantic bet.
And this is a really crucial piece of the puzzle. See, the AI job losses weren't spread out evenly. They hit high-income, white-collar professionals the hardest. And why does that matter so much? Because the top 20% of earners, they're responsible for a whopping 65% of all consumer spending. So when they lose their jobs, or even just get scared of losing them, the spending just stops. The whole consumer economy just grinds to a halt.
So, where did the financial system start to crack? Right here, in the massive private credit market. By 2026, in this scenario, it had blown up to $2.5 trillion, and a huge chunk of that money had been loaned out to private equity funds to buy, you guessed it, software companies. All based on this one simple assumption, that those software revenues would just keep going up and up forever.
But what happens when that assumption shatters? When the software business model itself breaks? The defaults started coming, and they came fast. First, a ratings agency sounds the alarm. Then a few of those PE-backed companies start to go under, and then the big one hits. A major company like Zendesk defaults. That sends shockwaves through the whole system. Suddenly, the regulators, who had been asleep at the wheel, wake up.
Now look, the private credit market was supposed to be able to handle some losses. It was built to bend, not break. But the real panic didn't start there. It started when investors began to ask a question about a much bigger market. A question that would have sounded completely insane just a couple of years earlier.
$13 trillion. That's the U.S. residential mortgage market, an entire financial universe built on one single bedrock assumption, that people with good jobs and good credit would keep having good, stable, growing jobs for 30 years. And all of a sudden, that foundation, the very bedrock of the largest credit market on Earth, looked terrifyingly, shockingly fragile.
So, okay. That's the nightmare scenario. That's the memo from 2028. But this is where the whole thing pivots. This is where it pulls us out of that scary future and drops us right back into the present. Because you are not in June 2028. The authors make that crystal clear. This isn't a prophecy. It's a fire drill. It's a warning shot. Their whole point is that we are right here, right now, in February 2026. Those negative feedback loops we talked about, they haven't started spinning out of control yet. That canary in the coal mine, it's still singing. This future is not inevitable. It's not written in stone.
And that's why they wrote this. It's not meant to be a doom and gloom story. It's framed as a challenge, a uniquely human one. Yeah, the technology is causing the disruption, but figuring out how to get through it, how to find a new balance, a new equilibrium, that's a job that only we can do.
And that's really the final takeaway, isn't it? Machine intelligence is accelerating at an incredible pace. But our systems, our economic systems, our social systems, they were all built for a totally different world. A world where human brainpower was the rare, valuable thing. Now we're in a race against time to build new rules, new frameworks for this new world of abundant machine intelligence. And the memo leaves us hanging with the only question that really matters. Are we going to be able to build them in time?